of the one who said, I haven't gotten used to the new Zoom announcement that recording is in progress. Um, All right, take two. May the sacred presence of the one who said he would abide in his teaching be our guide. May we follow his glorious example and tread with unfaltering steps this noble path, till we too shall attain enlightenment. All Buddhas throughout space and time, all honored ones, Bodhisattvas, Mahasattvas, wisdom beyond wisdom, Maha Prajna Paramita. Good evening. It's nice to see you all tonight. It's nice to sit with you all tonight. I have been hungry for Dharma. And, so this is good. This is good. What I want to talk about tonight, I want to talk about a quality that we often name as associated with practice. And there's different aspects of this. And this came to my attention just through random chance as the chaplains were meeting for our afternoon report last week. And one of them looked over at our lead chaplain and said, I just want to appreciate the steadfastness of our lead chaplain. He's just so steady. And for some reason, hearing that said, it was like a bell being struck. I was like, yes. I want to talk about steadfastness. I want to talk about how we use that word in practice. And so I want to talk a little bit about that, but then I also want to invite comments and perhaps questions, but also comments about how you see this showing up in your practice. So the Merriam-Webster dictionary definition is firmly fixed in place or immovable. This is how they define steadfast. And then we might also think of what the opposite of that is. The opposite of that might be flexibility or dynamic energy. Or maybe we might think about the opposite of it as passivity or something that is push-aroundable. Steadfast. I want to offer a couple of different places where, you know, it's easy to see this aspect of steadfast show up in our tradition. And this isn't an exclusive list or an exhaustive list. Like I said, I'm eager to hear what how this comes up for you. But one place this is very apparent to me is in the Pali Canon, when we're looking at the Buddha's discourses. So these are the teachings that are attributed directly to the Buddha. And oftentimes in the evenings, if I'm not writing something for my chaplaincy training program, I'll come home and I'll pick up one of the Nikayas and just find one of the short or medium length discourses to read, just as a way to soothe my own sense of coming in from the world, wanting to ground myself in practice and in Buddhism. And so often in reading the Buddhist sutras, even reading them in translation, there is this sense that again and again and again, it comes back to, this is what I teach. He talks about adhering to precepts, the importance of the middle way, the Four Noble Truths, the Eightfold Path, knowing what to cultivate, knowing what to avoid, knowing what is wholesome, knowing what is unwholesome. And there are times when the Buddha would be asked questions that were outside the realm of what he taught. And his response would be a very gentle, "This is what I have to teach." And he would reiterate what it is that he has to teach. He didn't get dragged off his seat. He was steadfast, he was resolute. He knew what was his. We see that a little bit in the when we talk about uh, sitting in that place of practice, the diamond seat, the Vajra seat, that place which we cannot be moved from. I've had to be careful in my own learning how to be a Zen teacher, of knowing what it is that I know how to teach and recognizing when I'm sort of being dragged off into the weeds and on the verge of just pulling something out of the ether, and recognizing it's a recognition in the body of either getting pulled out of my seat or really staying steady, staying steady. So I love this model that the Buddha provides of really sticking to what it is that he has to teach. Another of these aspects where we can see this aspect of steadfastness is in our paramitas, especially Virya paramita. This isn't quite steadfastness, but it is related. Sometimes being steadfast is a quality of Virya paramita, but it's this perfection of energy, of effort, of uh, like bringing forth something, bringing forth an energy that is applied to practice. It takes courage, it takes effort. And this comparison or this allusion to Virya Paramita is aligning with that sense of steadfastness as something which cannot be pushed around. And the thing I love about thinking of steadfast in terms of virya is that it does take something from us. We have to put effort into this. It is not I'm immovable because I'm immovable like a rock is immovable. It's I'm immovable because I can take this seat, I can take this position that does not budge when other actions are pushing against it. What is it to hold steady in the midst of conditions, in the midst of distractions, in the midst of things that pull us away? And I think about this, like I was talking with another person who works in the healthcare system, not in the hospital where I work, but somebody who's familiar with hospital training. And I made this comment about, um, I really like going to codes. Like, you like going to codes? And so these are like code blues are what I'm talking about. She's like, what do you mean you like going to the codes? It means like somebody's in cardiac arrest or respiratory, like somebody's dying. I'm like, well, okay. I don't like them because somebody's dying. That part is stressful. But one thing I've noticed over these months of training is that I remember my first code blue. And I got called down to critical care in the middle of the night. because they lost a pulse on one of their patients. And I was terrified. I was shaking. I didn't know what was going on. The environment was strange. There were all of these noises. There were about 20 people in the hallway. I didn't know what I was supposed to do. I was this timid little baby chaplain. And I felt so unsteady. I felt so like all of my energy was just in my eyes and my ears trying to track what is going on, what is going on, what is going on. And in the last week, I've realized I can get a page for that code. And I can show up, and all of my energy just goes. I can feel it in my hara, and I can feel it in my posture. And I can look, and I can assess, and I can see who's there. I can see who's managing the code. I'm the chaplain. Is their family present? I'll go talk to them. Oh, there's no family present? I'll stay and watch and help. Communication. Oh, where's that patient from? Room, da da da. And it's still a rush of adrenaline, but that sensation is being very grounded in the midst of conditions, of being capable of trusting my own ability to meet these conditions. And being able to hold a presence that is actually calming for other people. That's very different from when I first showed up. And I noticed that, and I noticed that as an aspect of that sort of energy and effort that goes into practice, that goes into Dharma practice. There's the effort that we bring in the moment, but then there's also the effort and the energy that comes into sustaining a practice over time. Because I think, as all of you know, sometimes sitting zazen is not fun, and we'd rather do something else. And what is it that keeps you on the cushion? Or what is it that keeps you on the cushion day after day? Or what is it that keeps you on the cushion after, something distressing has happened? There's an energy that builds over time, and that energy helps connect you to that practice. Another place where I notice steadfastness is in some of our iconography or our symbolism. And the first that comes to mind is Buddha. Buddha Myo-o. He's called the immovable one, or the unshaken one. My teacher used to call him the Bodhisattva of tough love. He's often depicted as a very stern, frightening figure who is chained to a rock in hell. He has all of these flames behind him. And in one hand he holds a sword, and in the other hand he holds a rope. And that sword is the sword to cut through delusions or to cut through ignorance. And the rope is the lasso of the precepts that binds us to wholesome action. These flames are symbols of purification. And that rock is symbolizes his steadfastness. That he is going to stay there and stick with you no matter what. He's not going to fix you. He's not going to necessarily help you other than by being there with you. And I've thought about Fudo a lot. It was very important to me in my early practice when I would come up against aspects of myself that I was trying to heal or move away from. And I just needed that sense of solid presence. And he was my guy. I think these days I might lean on Kanzeon a little bit more, but there are times when just that simple presence of Buddha is what's needed. If you've ever heard the Vespers at Dharma Rain, we've got a hymn to Buddha. I'm not going to sing it, but I'll read it. It's a very simple verse. Hail to the mandala. Let us be so engulfed within our praises evermore, that by our own wills and vigilance may we our fetters cut away. May we within the temple of our own hearts dwell, amidst the myriad mountains. By our own wills and vigilance. I think that's a beautiful way of connoting this idea of steadfastness in practice. It takes our will and our vigilance. Because this quality of steadfast is not brittle or rigid. It can be solid, dependable, mountainous, but not brittle. I don't think of being steadfast as brittle. I want to read you a little bit from Dogen, one of our 13th century monastics, one of our revered teachers. And this is from the Heikuroku, a Dharma Hall discourse titled Realization in Between Clouds and Waters. The shifting clouds drift above the mountains. The murmuring waters flow down the mountains. I question, for people in between the clouds and the waters, where do we find ourselves? When the mind is dropped away, the Dharma transcends seeing and hearing. When this wisdom is thoroughly investigated, the way transcends emotional thinking. At this very time, how are the bodies of all you people? From birth, both ears are aligned with the shoulders. The spiritual cloud, Yin Yang, was enlightened at the sight of peach blossoms. So Dogen speaks to this lovely idea, or this lovely sense of the people in between the clouds and the waters. Where do we find ourselves? When the mind is dropped away, the Dharma transcends seeing and hearing. At this very time, how are the bodies of you people? Dogen's life and his practice are also examples of steadfastness and diligence. He devoted his life to practice, and he took on many arduous tasks in his devotion to Dharma and his diligence in seeking out questions to his, or seeking out answers to his spiritual questions. It was not an easy thing to sail from Japan to China and train in a foreign country. It wasn't an easy thing to bring back a different style of Buddhism, to begin to practice it in your home country. It wasn't an easy thing to navigate politics and both within the secular world and within the monastic world, to teach what he saw as a beneficial way of teaching. But he asked this question, what does it take to thoroughly investigate? How do you know when something is thoroughly investigated? That also takes a degree of steadfastness, of not settling for a superficial answer, or perhaps not settling for someone else's answer. What sort of vigilance and resoluteness does it take to find your own answer for your own question? So I think what I want to leave you with is just the importance of effort and engagement in practice. That this is both about mental resolution as well as a somatic experience. This is felt. Imagine, just hold that word in your mind, steadfast. Feel it. It's a body thing. So I'll ask you this. What are the places or parts of practice where you feel steadfast? Where do you feel like you could use support? And most importantly, how do you stay true to that which is most important? And with that, I'll welcome your comments or questions or examples of your own practice that perhaps you can share with each other.
I don't know that I have an answer for all the questions, but as even when you started, the very first thing that popped up in my mind was I was talking to Takeo a while back, and I was just saying, I know that, right now with my schedule, it's kind of hit or miss if I'm here. And then too, I'm just on the computer all day. And the thing that came out of her mouth was the Dharma will be here. And it was that's where that steadfastness is. It's like, it totally was like, no matter what is going on in my life, she just like hit it right on the nail. It's like, you know what? That Dharma is still going to be here. If you're here, if you're not here, it'll be waiting for you when you get back here. There's just that security. I don't know if that's the right word, but just knowing that that's that thing that doesn't get moved off the cushion. It's there. It's there all the time and available to us any time that we tap into it. So it was just, it was like the words that I needed at that moment. So.
Well, Jyoshin, thank you for a really lovely, inspiring, and talk full of clarity. I love the concept of steadfastness. It's really something to aspire to, and it makes me think of people that I know that embody that quality. And I like the idea of steadfastness with flexibility. So it isn't like a fixed boulder or a person whose views never change on anything. But so like when I'm training horses, there's a certain position that you take in the saddle and with the reins and with your body to communicate with the horse, and it's a position that's been kind of tested and true through thousands of years, and because it works. but it's a position that has some built-in elasticity, but not endless. So your hands are in a certain position, but they aren't fixed, because you can't communicate with your horse through fixed hands. And so there is some elasticness, but not infinite elasticness, because that you can't communicate that way either. So maybe there's that much give. And so so I like that definition of steadfastness, that it's basically, and so your horse, is his body or her body is shaped by yours in that way, within these semi-solid boundaries, fairly solid, but not completely ungiving. And he has no choice but to sort of mold to your expectations. I also see steadfastness, gosh, not so much in my practice. Well, okay, I sit on the cushion. I guess that counts. I guess that counts. Anyway, that's really inspiring. I love the image of Fudo, and just brings Kyogen to mind. He had that quality.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Jyoshin, the I just lost the word. Wholeheartedness comes up. I've heard this in Bendoa, and it pops up in other things too. But I betray my understanding, my hearing in my brain. Could you say again the last thing you said? You gave challenge or asked three things. And the third, I understood the first two and I've forgotten them, but I didn't get the third one at all, the last one.
I think the third one was, how do you stay true to that which is most important?
Stay true. Steadfast. Okay. There's a challenge. Thank you. Not only that, but how do you know what's most important? I mean, in a situation. Wow. Okay. Okay, I'm spinning on that. Thank you. Yeah.
You got a thumbs up from Trish on that one.
I related to something you were relating, because after my years of practice here, I think if I were to go back and be a first responder again, I wouldn't be as frazzled as quickly. And I made some emotional responses in tense situations that were not helpful, really. But I recovered from them. But I know, yeah, I know more about what's most important, don't I? Maybe. Thanks.
First responders have to move fast. Sometimes it's hard to I was going to say slow down, but that's the training of a chaplain, is to slow down and to keep slowing down. Make space. Sometimes first responders don't have that much opportunity to slow down because things have to happen fast. And that's what saves a life, is that quickness and that responsiveness.
I thought when you were saying, you go down into the room, and if there's no family, you just stand back and watch. And I can remember as it's not that we know that you're there, but we do know that you're there. It's like we're so focused on doing our job as being the responder on that code. But I can remember that if somebody would have asked me, is a person of faith one of the chaplains, whatever, in the room, I wouldn't even be able to answer it necessarily, because that isn't what I'm focusing on. But it is amazing what a difference it makes to have that person in the room, even though you wouldn't, nowhere in my thought process would I have been thinking about that. So it just kind of warmed my heart, just visualizing you being in the room against a wall or out by the door, just knowing how that feels, having how I would feel knowing that you were there.
Thank you.
I have not been in that kind of situation. Obviously, I'm not a first responder or a chaplain, but the phrase that I use is knowing what is mine to do. And I think that's, if there's any part of being steadfast, that's in my morning practice and in my evening practice, it's knowing what is mine to do. And that's just a guide, that's all. So that's how I related to what you were saying.
Thank you, Nancy. That sounds like such a grounding phrase, such a grounding idea to orient towards. Because when you know what is yours to do, everything else can be let go of.
It's a sticky that I just wrote that on. That's going on my iPad.
I'm surprised at how easily I can be pulled off my cushion spiritually, and so I was kind of relieved to hear your story of when your first codes, and that you were, didn't feel grounded, and so I guess you probably got there sooner because of your practice. At least I feel like that's maybe the case with me. I mean, I can get pulled off the cushion pretty easily. I thought I'd lost my puppy, and I just really, but even during that drama that my brain was enjoying creating, there was a part of me that realized that this was a drama that I was somehow enjoying, and that I had the option to drop it. I didn't choose to drop it for a while, and I wondered about that. Maybe because of the sense of relief when it's over, it's kind of wonderful. But in any case, at first I thought, where's my practice? Why isn't my practice helping me with this? I'm hysterical. I'm like, I just can't even think straight. But when I think about it now, I mean, I did witness that. I did witness all that.
So let me ask you this, Diego. Being a person of practice, do you expect yourself to be calm and composed at all times?
Yeah, I guess I do. Yeah, that's a great question.
I would invite you to reconsider that.
Yes, thank you. That's a great question. Yeah.
But you could invoke the power of Kanzeon in those moments.
And I did. And of course, she didn't fail me. She never does. My puppy was asleep in the tack room 5 feet away from me. So
when you asked what is most important and what if we forget about it, I don't think I ever forget what is most important. I don't think I could. I think I often don't pay attention to it, or my mind isn't on it, or something is distracting me, but I don't think I've ever forgotten. I don't think I could not know.
Mhm.
But as far as steadfastness goes,
Yeah,
and diligence,
was that her?
yeah, that's her. In her mind. Oh, come now. You always, oh, come on. Yeah.
We've got 4 minutes left.
I was just thinking about this discussion, which is I'm really enjoying paying good attention to it. But back to I think what you were saying, Take, or maybe it was just the general conversation. But in the dog world of mushing that I was part of, it was always calm, assertive, because I related to you freaking out losing your puppy. Because I can't tell you how many times my Siberian would take off, and I knew he would. I knew he wasn't lost, but I would freak out. And so I had to tell myself, calm, assertive, keep calling, but don't freak out, you know. But that's the behavior that I still try and have, calm, assertive. Kind of on the same lines, I think.
Well, yay. Thanks for being here tonight and for your comments and contributions. It's good to hear the wisdom of the group. The universe is the boundless sky. Just as the lotus is not wetted by the water that surrounds it, the mind is immaculate and beyond the dust. Let us bow to the highest Lord. All Buddhas throughout space and time, all honored ones, bodhisattvas, mahasattvas, wisdom beyond wisdom, Maha Prajna Prajna. Thank you all. Good
Thank you,
night.
Jyoshin.
Thank
It's
you.
a
Thank you
great
so
talk.
much,
Thanks,
Jyoshin.